Hello, everyone. I hope you're all feeling genki today. Onegaishimasu. So I don't know if you notice, but when you really do a study of the Shoshu, I think I've mentioned a number of times how they're sequential. One leads to two, leads to three, leads to four, all the way up to 22. And a really good example of this is number 8 and number 9. Number 8 is plus life. The absolute universe is one. Here, two opposing actions appear and a relative world is born. This is called yin and yang in the Orient and plus and minus in the West. A bright, vigorous life is called a plus life, and a dark, oppressive one is called minus. Let's work towards a plus life by eliminating all minus ideas from now. And right into number 9, the subconscious. The conscious mind is composed of material that is taken from the subconscious mind, which is the accumulation of past experiences and knowledge. Let's stop putting minus thoughts into the subconscious mind from now on. It is the storehouse of our minds. Let's maintain plus key and live our lives with an active spirit. I think in the old translation, it even said, live our lives with a positive attitude. So I'm so glad that all of you are still attending these classes. It's a lot of meditation. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is our 50th class today since we began on Zoom. And that's a lot of sitting that most people are not so used to. And it's really reflected, by the way, in the emails that I get from people, not just from what you hear people say in the sessions, which is significant, but also many people are shy and want to express it privately to me. So this is what Doi Sensei is talking about anyway. When we have a negative idea structure in our subconscious mind, that binds up a whole host of energy. Or let's just say, if the word energy uh, uh, makes you nervous or sounds weird to you, it's just a whole bunch of our attention is stuck in that place if it's some kind of a belief system. And we'd really be, you are probably already being surprised, I should say, by the amount of negative ideas we have in our heads. The amount of negative energy that is tied up in our subconscious mind. And it shows, of course, itself to us every time we react negatively to something. That's because that structure is tying up all this energy in our subconscious mind. So when we're able to notice that again and again, every time we notice it for what it is, see it for what it is, it releases its hold on us a little bit. So a little bit we become freer, and a little bit become more filled with positive energy. Because when that negative energy is released, it doesn't go away. It becomes part of our being, our positive being. So when you do this all of your life and you get to be more old, like me, then you're filled with this all the time. Your whole being is full of this wonderful feeling of being whole. And, I just remember at some point thinking, what, how was I willing to spend my whole life not experiencing this? Because, I remember it from when I was little. I remember it when I was a little baby. I remember this feeling being full. Only it's different now because in some way I'm fully aware of it. But I don't mean to talk about myself that way. It's the same for every one of you. It's just that I want to inspire you to keep practicing this noticing, this changing our subconscious mind drop by drop by drop. Each little thing doesn't seem like much, but we have a big life. We have a lot of time when in our life. If you're a little bit older, then get to work more. But if you're younger, you've got so much time. So do now what so many of us waited until we were 30 or 35 or even 40, some of us, before we began to consciously support our subconscious, the state of our subconscious mind. This is so transformative. This is where the rubber hits the road, folks. This is what makes our training blossom and grow. I have to tell you, one time I took 2 years off of Aikido, off of going to the dojo, because I got divorced. I was taking care of my 2 children, and then I got remarried to Lynn, and I started a whole new business, and it was just overwhelming, and I didn't think I could do it. I would come down on Sundays, but generally speaking, I didn't. I stopped teaching. For instance, I used to teach the Friday class. And Suzuki Sensei said, "Oh yes, of course, go ahead." But I sat every morning, and during this time more than ever. And when I came back, at some point, he asked me to go to lunch. I was in Honolulu. We went to a seminar with Toi Sensei, and he said, "You better come to lunch with me." And I sat down, and before we could order food, he said, "It's time. Your time is up. Come back to the dojo now. I need you to start teaching the Friday class again." I was after 2 years. And so I did. And, I came back to class, and several people said, "Wow, well, you're better now than you were before when you left." And so they thought, "But you haven't even been practicing." But I had, it's like this story they tell about the experiment they did where they had one group of players just shoot free throw baskets in basketball physically, and they had another group just imagine shooting free throws, and they had a third group imagine and physically do it, both. Of course, the group that did both, it turned out to be the best. But who was the second best? The ones who thought about it, who just imagined doing it. You know why? Because every time when you're imagining it, you never miss one. You don't imagine missing free throws. You're an ace. Everyone goes in the hole. But it's a little bit like that. Of course, Suzuki Sensei gave me a long series of things to do in the morning. So I had a lot of, Aikido related exercise I did. But still, it was without coming to the dojo for 2 years. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to take 2 years off from training at the dojo. But it's just that the story is worth telling because, and it was just as shocking to me as everyone else. Well, but maybe not shocking to me. It was confirmation because certainly Suzuki Sensei had told me this is what makes the difference. From the day one, he said, "You want to be like this? You sit every day. This is so." That's because that's where the the biggest amount of this transformation I'm talking about, releasing of energy into your system, happens. That's why many of you are experiencing so much positive experience during this time. Okay, maybe we start with some key breathing. People working on their spiritual development at some point begin to feel that they should get rid of their ego. But I once told my teacher in my 3-year meditation retreat that I wanted to get rid of my ego. And he said, that's like the ego has a full pillar in the temple of wisdom. If you remove the pillar, the whole building falls down. It's like, so the materials in our subconscious mind, those materials are our small self. Those are the characteristics of our small self. So as we're transforming, I mean, they were put in there by our own ignorance and inattention. No one's to blame, but we just were ignorant and we didn't know how to pay attention. So we built negative structures. So it causes us to do things and say things that we wish we didn't. Yeah. So Toei Sensei's solution is change the material in the subconscious mind. So this is very important, this activity. This is the essential aspect of our practice, whether we know it or not. And it's happening all the time, every day, because we're constantly loading and reloading the subconscious mind. So tell me, John, what do you have to say about this? John Hara from Maui.
Sensei.
Are you awake? Okay.
Falling asleep tonight.
You know, I have to tell you that I don't know how Zoom works, but it changes the person I look at all night, every time. Well, quite often it's Lillian Paiva because it's usually the first person that checks in, that logs on. Anyway, tonight it was John. So all the way through key breathing, key meditation, and whole body meditation, I have a big picture of John in front of me, a live screening of John. So at one point he had a little trouble staying awake. That was just of course, no one is to blame, John. Okay, please. I know that you've had a lot of experience sitting, right? You're a priest, so you've probably spent years and years sitting in meditation, right? So you probably have some very strong, passionate ideas about this, what I had to say.
Sensei, gosh, you said you wanted to get rid of your ego. Um,
I did.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes I feel like I lack an ego, like I lack my own pillar to hold me up. But you said you had negative reinforcements?
So Toy Sensei says that our conscious mind is made, our conscious mind, which is our small self, is made of the materials in the subconscious mind. And if we are weak or inattentive or worse yet, negative about something, hateful, then that's the material that's stored in our subconscious mind. That's what makes us that way. So we have somehow built that into us. Now, everybody has a different take on it. I mean, everybody has a different set of specific experiences that have gone into that. So everyone's character is slightly different, but the principles are the same. So Toy Sensei is just expressing the principle to us. And when we're what I always talk about noticing, because that's the mechanism we use, or the mechanism that the system is set up so that how change happens or how evolution takes place is in human beings by us noticing. Even in an animal, it's in or a plant, it's in some part of that being creature noticing, and it changes to fit the circumstance over maybe a period of many, many years. Now, human beings, it's quite fast because we have self consciousness, so we can have universal consciousness and be aware of it at the same time. So that's what we're doing when I say we're noticing. That's a long answer to your short question. But please, does that help you? Would you still say that you have no ego? I think that's impossible.
No, no.
It's just the nature of it has been uh, installed in a certain way because of your particular lifestyle and the life you grew up in the temple with your mother and father and became a priest. So you have a very unique, probably, pillar, very different than other people. That's why I ask you. Interesting response. Okay, I'll leave you alone. Someone else. Someone else like, how about Phoenix? Phoenix Grange.
Good evening, Sensei.
Yes. What does this make you think?
I think just with circumstances the way they are inside of me and around me, getting to see my actions and reactions as constant fodder, to watch the choices that I make. So, for example, lately I have been working way too much and sometimes skipping my practice and watching the consequences of that. And then coming, it's not as, it's as though sometimes I kind of have to dive into why it doesn't work for a couple of days and then come back. But it's very, I think, even as that's happening, I can see the connection between when I try to control things or try to make something happen in situations where that's not appropriate or possible. I just get to see the suffering that that causes me and the effect that it has on people around me. And I stew in it for a little while and then I return to practice. And it's just, I think we talked about this once before. It's the choices before me are really obvious, and yet I have to learn the hard way sometimes, I guess. I mean, I'm still, I so appreciate being here, you know, having these classes. I can't say what impact it has on my being. And
Well,
I just did, yeah, that's all.
yeah, I think that everybody is in your shoes. We are all in, in that place. I mean, the more I talk about this phrase illumination and surf it all the time, you know, like we have to see enough of it to get tired of it. That's all.
Right.
And once we have seen enough of it, then the material in the subconscious mind will begin to be exchanged for something a bit more positive, or let's just say useful. We have to be careful with those terms, positive and negative, because bad and good, blame and no blame, blame and shame, you know, this is not useful for us. But it's like the ego. We don't want to get rid of the ego. It wouldn't be good to have no ego. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have an ego. Ego is very important and very useful for us. But it's just a matter of changing the nature of what's in the subconscious mind, or what is the material that makes up that small self. You can see that what's in the toolbox is what it's all about. What you can do with that toolbox is what's in there. You've got a bunch of old rusty stuff that doesn't work anymore. Not so good. Okay.
Hi, Sensei. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? We have 2 or 3 more minutes. How about Christoph? Can you add something?
Good morning, good evening, everybody. Sensei.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, I could, but I'm not sure it's of interest. It's also obviously quite personal. One of the things you said, it's you said something like, but by noticing that we reduce the load in our subconscious mind, when I think about myself, a number of what I accumulated in my subconscious minds have its roots in my childhood and in a number of things I experienced. And well, this is my interpretation, at least. And ironically, I have the impression that I was paying attention, but I was not paying the right attention. And then a number of things were happening to me, and that was loading my subconscious mind and influencing a number of things I was doing, and the way I became, and a number of and the way I started handling things and situations and looking at the world, etc. So somehow I was paying attention, but maybe not to the right thing, and maybe I was the object of a number of situations without knowing it. I don't know. This is what comes to mind. You ask me, I'm sharing with you. I don't know if it's useful and if it's the right time to say things like that.
Oh yes, it's always the right time, and I think for everybody would say, oh yes, me too. So we have this every one of us has a different history. It's true. But the one thing that's common about it is that we don't have an accurate memory of any of it. So we have to actually look at the result of it as it arises in us in every moment. And by noticing that, the nature of that, that's much more important than trying to remember something that happened before and figure out, yeah. So it's all kind of a morass back there. We may have very painful, and also very pleasurable memories, but even those have been changed by our addiction to pleasure and our aversion to pain. So we change things in our mind because we want to be good people. And sometimes we blame ourselves, and that feels good. So that makes us mad. I'm just sort of expressing that all the things we remember are not as useful as one thing that happens right now. When we see what arises in reaction. So this is what counts. You know, I'll tell you, Suzuki Sensei gave me a bunch of exercises to do relating to this. And okay, I'm gonna just take a minute and give you one, and then maybe next time I'll give you some more. So here's one. So he told me, next time someone is insulting you or criticizing you severely, diminishing you in some way, instead of defending yourself or pointing out how wrong they are or how right you are or sticking up for yourself or doing any of those things that our ego wants to do, just don't say anything, just listen. And let them have their complete say. And how you listen, he told me, is very important. Because you can listen like you know better. Do you know what I mean? You can listen, you can be silent and just crucify that other person. That's not what he means, of course. He means just openly listen, right? And then see what that feels like. And it usually feels like being diminished. And that feels like a bad thing. We don't like that. So, and isn't that ironic? Because aren't we spending years of our life trying to change that nature of our subconscious mind, change the negative material, change our defensiveness, change our pride, change our, change the characteristics in our subconscious mind. And there is a person finally doing it for us, finally helping us with the situation. But instead of praising them and thanking them like the Buddha does, we get pissed off. All of us, me too. So exercise to practice. If you're lucky enough to have someone berate you in the near future, just for the fun of it, try the exercise. You'll love it. All right. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you all very much.